My parents offered to pay for my dream wedding. I was stunned. After a lifetime of being treated like I was second best, this felt like a peace offering. But it came with one completely insane condition. My older sister had to walk down the aisle first, wearing her own wedding dress. They thought they were setting the stage for my ultimate humiliation. They had no idea they were walking directly into a trap I'd been waiting my entire life to spring. If you believe that karma sometimes needs a little help, then you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you are about to witness a story where justice isn't just served, it's exquisitely crafted, paid for by the very people who deserved it most. Trust me, you don't want to miss a single second of this. Let's dive in. From the moment I could form memories, the family dynamic was crystal clear. My sister was the sun, and I was just a planet caught in her orbit, barely reflecting any light. This wasn't subtle favoritism. It was a core principle of our household. If she accused me of something, I was punished instantly, no questions asked. If I had undeniable proof against her, my parents would somehow twist it, giving her a slap on the wrist while finding a way to scold me in the process. My own birthday cake had to be the flavor she wanted, and my parents would feign ignorance when I'd remind them I hated it. Family outings were always to places she chose, even on days that were supposed to be about me. She grew up spoiled, entitled, and used me as her personal punching bag. Things escalated when we hit our teens. My sister suddenly found herself with no friends. I don't know if they ditched her for her mean streak or just moved on, but her isolation made her venomous. She saw that I had friends, that I was decently popular, and she couldn't stand it. Suddenly, I wasn't just an occasional target. I was the enemy she needed to destroy. She started accusing my friends of things, inventing lies until my parents forbade me from seeing anyone. Their excuses were always wrapped in fake concern. "They're not good people," they'd say, echoing my sister. "Why can't you just enjoy family time like your sister does?" My only lifeline was my extended family. At a gathering, my cousins invited me out, and when I sadly told them I wasn't allowed, they asked why. With no filter, my kid self blurted out the truth. "Because my sister doesn't have any friends, so I'm not allowed to either." That single sentence spread like wildfire. The adults tore my parents apart. My reward? I was grounded for a month for lying, but it was worth it. They had to give me some freedom after that, and my sister, humiliated, demanded to change schools. But the damage was done. She'd tasted the power she had over me, and she never let go. Her new friends would come over just to bully me, which my parents dismissed as light teasing. Then came the boyfriends. The first one I ever brought home, my sister tried to flirt with him, wearing skimpy clothes and telling him how awful I was. When he rejected her and came to find me, she spun a tale to my parents that he had been the one to hit on her. And who did my parents believe? Of course, the golden child. They forbade me from seeing him, and the relationship crumbled under the pressure. It happened again with the next boyfriend. She'd make a move, he'd refuse, and she'd run to our parents with the same story. Their conclusion wasn't that my sister was a liar, but that I had terrible judgment and kept picking bad men. Years went by, and it was time for college. My sister got into a mediocre school, and my parents announced with great pride that they'd be paying for everything. I was just relieved she'd be gone. A year later, my mom sat me down for the talk about my future. The words that came out of her mouth were cold, clinical, and exactly what I had been expecting my whole life. "Since we're paying for your sister's college," she said without a hint of shame, "we just don't have the money to pay for yours." She told me I should get a job right after high school and wait a few years. Maybe, just maybe, after my sister graduated, they could see if they could afford something for me. Oh, and if I wanted to keep living at home, I'd have to start paying rent and bills. She must have expected me to scream, to cry, to throw a tantrum she could use as proof of my immaturity. But I just looked at her, my face a perfect mask of calm, and said, "Okay, I understand." You see, I had never, not for 1 second, believed they would support me. College wasn't a dream, it was an escape plan. I had spent years studying in silence, pouring all my pain and frustration into my books, because I knew education was my only way out. And my hard work paid off. I earned a full scholarship to a good university. I posted the news on social media at the exact same time I told them, even thanking them in the post to trap them. They couldn't forbid me from going without exposing their cruelty to the whole family. College was my salvation. For the first time, I was happy. I was free. And it was during this time that I met my husband. He is the polar opposite of me. Where I'm meek and avoid conflict, he thrives on it. He doesn't just get mad, he gets even. He's the kind of person who, if you slight him, won't just forget it. He'll quietly start building a fortress of revenge from which to launch his counterattack. I love that about him. He was everything I wasn't allowed to be. When we got engaged, my parents demanded to meet him. I was hesitant, but my husband looked like a kid on Christmas morning. He had heard all my stories. He was ready. He even bought a high-quality audio recorder to hide in his pocket, hoping to catch my sister in the act of trying to seduce him so he could expose her to the family. He went to meet them alone and came back hours later, euphoric. "Babe, you won't believe the awful shit they wanted," he yelled, practically vibrating with excitement. "We can fuck them over so bad." He played me the recording. It was worse than I ever could have imagined. After some performative grumbling about my bad judgment, they laid out their grand offer. They would pay for our entire wedding. The venue, the food, the flowers, everything, on one condition. My sister would walk down the aisle on my wedding day just before me in a full bridal gown, because, they argued, it wasn't fair for the younger sister to get married first. They wanted to give her the experience at my expense, on my day. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. But as my husband recounted the story, a wicked grin spread across his face. A switch flipped inside me. The years of hurt and resentment didn't curdle into sadness. They sharpened into a weapon. And for the first time, I had an ally who knew exactly how to use it. We spent hours brainstorming, finally settling on a plan that was as simple as it was diabolical. My husband went back to them. He told them I would never agree to their plan, but he saw no problem with it. He suggested a compromise. They helped pay for the wedding, and on the day of, they would surprise me with my sister's grand entrance. He argued that with everyone watching and feeling grateful for their money, I'd be too pressured to make a scene. My sister literally skipped with joy. To seal the deal, he told them a crucial lie, that I was controlling and distrustful due to my bad history with men, and that I regularly checked his phone. Therefore, absolutely nothing about this secret plan could ever be put in writing. Every discussion had to be in person. They bought it completely. And so began months of deception. My parents and sister thought they were crafting my ultimate downfall. But in reality, my husband and I were milking them for every penny. We called it back pay for emotional damages. We'd pick the cheapest menu option. Then my husband would secretly tell my sister it was a shame we couldn't afford the premium package. She'd throw a tantrum, and my parents would proudly announce they were upgrading us to the most expensive option. We did it with the photographer, the flowers, everything. We were having the extravagant wedding we never wanted, and it was costing us almost nothing. The day of the wedding arrived. The air was thick with tension and unspoken plots. Their plan was simple. My sister would arrive just as I was due to walk down the aisle, make her grand entrance, and by the time I realized what happened, it would be too late. My husband had even proven he'd ruined my actual dress by showing them a scrap of fabric from the alterations. My parents and guests arrived, seeing only a woman with a checklist at the entrance. But once my parents were seated, our actual security, a man built like a bodyguard, materialized at the door with one instruction. My sister was not to get in, no matter what. The music started. My bridesmaids walked. Then, my dad stood at the entrance, waiting. He was waiting for my sister. A friend, who was in on our plan, sent me the signal. The bridal march began, the doors opened, and I walked in. The look on my father's face was a mixture of horror and utter confusion. He glanced behind me, searching for my sister, but she wasn't there. His phone rang. It was her. He looked at me, standing there alone in my wedding dress, and with a mumbled, "Something came up." He turned and walked away, leaving me at the altar. Gasps filled the room. Tears welled up in my eyes. They were real. A part of me, despite everything, still couldn't believe he would actually do it. But just as despair began to set in, my husband's father rushed from his seat, took my arm, and with a warm, reassuring smile, walked me down the aisle himself. We got married without a hitch. My parents never came back. Later, I pieced together what happened from a dozen different accounts. My sister had arrived in her white dress, and security calmly refused her entry, claiming she must be at the wrong venue. My dad rushed out, threatening to call the police, but the security guard welcomed it, stating he was hired by us and was just doing his job. It was chaos. Guests came out to see the commotion. My sister was screaming. My mom was crying. They were surrounded by family and friends, all demanding to know what on earth they were thinking. They immediately threw my husband under the bus, insisting he was in on the plan. That's when my husband was summoned. He walked out, put on a masterful performance of confusion and outrage, and denied everything. Why would I ever agree to something so insane? He demanded. They insisted he had, but when he asked for proof, a text, an email, anything, they had nothing. Their own paranoia, fueled by his lie about me being controlling, had been their undoing. My sister collapsed onto the floor, kicking and screaming like a toddler. My mother was sobbing uncontrollably. My dad's face was pale with rage and humiliation. For years, I was the one accused, the one no one believed. Now, finally, it was their turn. Watching the videos people took of them getting ripped apart by our family was the greatest wedding gift I could have ever received. They were told to leave, my dad having to physically drag my wailing sister off the ground. The aftermath was just as satisfying. My sister sent me unhinged messages, which my husband gleefully screenshotted and sent to the entire family group chat, painting them as relentless harassers trying to ruin our honeymoon. They were silenced by their own shame. For once in my life, they had tried to ruin something meaningful to me, and not only had they failed, but they had paid for my triumph. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I say it's best served at a lavish, open-bar wedding that your enemies paid for. What's the most satisfying justice you've ever witnessed? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more stories of epic revenge, and share this with someone who knows that sometimes you have to write your own happy ending.